Today, I'm going to teach you about eye paths. What on earth is an eye path? Well, you're going to find out about that. Welcome to Feedback Friday. I'm Eric Rhodes, and we are excited to be here. This is a place to give artists feedback on their art. Now, quite frankly, if you want to send in photography, I could do feedback on photography. A lot of this is about composition, value, design, and so really you can learn from anything. We want to look at some paintings today. We're going to look at 6 different ones that you've submitted, and let's look at those 6 paintings right now and see what we're going to do. We have a shed painting. We have a portrait painting. We have a landscape painting. We have a floral painting, and we have a sunset painting. I think that's all we've got. And we have one more, which is a figurative painting. So we're going to look at these, and I'm seeing these for pretty much the first time. And so this is an opportunity to kind of stump me and see if I can pull this off, because you never know. Sometimes I look at something and I go, I wouldn't change a thing. So let's find out what we're going to learn from this. But there's usually one thing I'll change or 2 things. So the idea is critically looking at a painting and asking yourself, how can I change it? How can I make it better? Now, it's hard to see your mistakes in your work because you're too emotionally invested in it. That's why when you watch critiques of other people's paintings, you actually have a better opportunity to learn, because you're not going, oh, I can't handle the pressure. All right. So anyway, let's get the show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes.
We are here every weekday at 12 noon. We have been since COVID began, and we love art. We try to get people to learn about art, to learn how to make art. Even if you believe that you can't do it, we believe that you can. And if you watch any 5 of our shows where we're teaching art, and we have hundreds and hundreds of different artists teaching different techniques, different styles, different mediums, you will get the confidence that you need to be able to do this. And you can learn here. We've had millions and millions of views. We've had people learning from all over the world, and it's really fun to be here for you. On Fridays, we try to do feedback. So I have a lot of experience, and I don't want to beat my chest, but I've been around the art magazine and art business and have been an artist for a long, long time, well over 2 decades. And as a result, I frequently judge competitions. As a matter of fact, I'm judging one today. I just judged the Laguna plein air competition. I actually physically went out there. I don't do that very often, but I've decided I'm going to do it more. I had so much fun. And, before COVID, I was out there a lot, and I was always getting, seemed like hundreds of invitations. Now, since COVID, I never accept any invitations, but after Laguna, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get out there some more. So maybe not too much, because there's only so much time with everything going on. But anyway, we are going to critique some paintings. We've got some brave souls today. Now, I like to have rules. We had a situation one time at one of our events, and we did some critiques. I didn't do them. And the person doing the critiques had really good, valuable feedback, but was pretty tough on people, and some people negatively reacted. So we don't want to be tough on you. We want to be tough on you because you need to learn the lessons, but that doesn't mean we need to destroy you. We want to be kind. We want to find constructive criticism. We want to find ways that we can inform and make you better, but we want to not destroy your state of mind. I've watched people give up painting because an artist destroyed them. As a matter of fact, when I first started painting, an art teacher said to me, you're not ever going to get this, and you're never going to be an artist. I'm in 3 art galleries. I just got invited to 2 more, and I couldn't paint. I just couldn't do it. You can do this. Okay. So anyway, be kind to yourself. Watch your negative self-talk. Don't beat up on yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm a lousy painter. No, just say, hey, I can improve this, right? So there's nothing personal in these critiques. Everything's an option for you. And if you were to ask 5 different painters about critiquing your painting, you're going to get 5 different answers. So we all have different things to say. Some artists are much more advanced than I am. Some artists are much less advanced than I am. So it's important to get critiques, and it's important to find somebody in your life who you can trust to give you critiques that's better than you are, and that isn't going to tell you your work is nice all the time, like your mother will. And my mother always told me my work was nice even when it wasn't. She maybe didn't know. But you want to be encouraging to your kids, right? So anyway, let's get right to it. We should tell you can submit paintings just by going to streamlinepublishing.com/feedback-Friday. That's a lot to remember with a dash in there, feedback-Friday. If you make changes after hearing my suggestions, make sure that you send them to us so we can look at it. One of these paintings in here looks a little familiar. I don't know if it's one that we did before or if they made some changes. So we're going to go ahead and get to it. So what's our first one? Okay, the first painting is this incredible shed. I guess it's a shed. Maybe it's a house. We're going to find out what we can do with this painting, and we're going to start out with the black and white version, because I like to start with black and white because it gives me an opportunity to look at the core structure of the painting. This is from Diana Fair from Indiana. I'm from Indiana, Diana. Okay, so I'm going to look at this, and I see a couple of things right away, but I'm going to point them out to you. The first thing I like to do is I like to ask myself a composition question. I take my cursor and I go right down the middle, and I go right down the middle. Now, when we were in kindergarten, we were taught to put everything in the middle. This is slightly off middle, but and I look for, are we doing this? Are we putting something in the bullseye, right? And we are in this particular case. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So let's look at a different form of composition. This is I like to call this the tic-tac-toe board. This is basically dividing your painting in equal thirds and making squares there and asking yourself, where is the point of interest? Typically, the point of interest is in one of these 4 intersections. And typically what we want to do is we want to look for one place that is your primary focal point. That's where you want most of your attention. And then you could have a secondary focal point, and you might have a third, but you don't want to have a fourth. And quite frankly, you really don't want anything more than a primary focal point. You can have some points of interest, but you want to have your primary focal point. This particular painting doesn't really fit anything in the primary focal point. Maybe that window is kind of close to it. So let's take a look at this from a standpoint of another thing. There's a concept called values, and I'm just going to go back and find a value. So this is a value scale, right? Values are darks to lights. And so a good painting usually always has 3 values: a dark value, a midtone, and a highlight. And so you want to look at values because values tell a story. And if you look at this ball here, the values tell a story, right? You have your darkest dark is under this ball, and maybe along that edge right there. And then everything gets lighter and lighter and lighter till it gets in the middle, right? And so you want to look for how you can create the sense of what we call form when you're doing your painting. And so we're going to go back to this and say, okay, what's happening with the values here? Now, when I look at this, the first thing I ask myself is where is the darkest dark? Okay. And I would say if I squint down, I'd say the darkest dark is, maybe here, maybe here, maybe some of these little streaks, and maybe a little spot here, and maybe a spot here. There's a spot here. But what's happening is the eye is like, I'm confused. Where do I go? And so what you want to do is look for an opportunity to state your darks. I typically, again, there are no rules. There's no have-tos, but I like to get a good dark up front. So Diana, I'm going to go over your signature here, and I'm going to get a really nice dark, maybe dark shadow established in here. I have a tendency to like to put shadows in the foreground. Now, shadows are typically not quite that dark. So I'm making a point here. And then what I want to do is look for another spot where I can go a little less dark. And so maybe I'll go a little less dark in here, and here. And then as I go back, I'm going to get a little less dark in my trees back here. This happens to be using a brown tone. So, and then if I wanted them to go back even further, I'd have some back, whoops, that didn't work. I'd have some back a little bit further that would be just a little bit lighter in theory, and probably a little bit lighter and bluer in reality, so that they feel like they're receding, right? So they're still darks, but this one is less dark than this one, which is less dark than this one, which is less dark than this one. So what you're doing is you're fooling the eye and taking the eye back. So I think, what we've got here is we've got some issues with darks. The other thing is I'm thinking the painting feels pretty busy, and I like to have spots of rest, because every painting has, diagonals create energy and horizontals create rest. And so if you have a spot of rest, it makes you go, oh, I want to be there and hang out in a hammock. So let's take the color version of this and see what we can do with it. Good job on this, Diana Fair from Indiana. Now the color, you can see the color changes everything in your viewpoint. So what's happening here is the first thing I saw, the first place my eye went, I don't know why, but it was back here to this row of flowers. And so I don't know why that happened, but I think it's because this is a really light light, and that's probably what pulled me in. So what happens typically is you go for the light spots, the brightest contrast, the most contrast, and that's what you want to put in your focal point. So if I were redoing this, I would probably move this. Let's go back to our tic-tac-toe board for a minute. I would probably ask myself, what is it about this painting? Remember, this was dead center. We don't want that. So I would either move it this direction, or I would move it this direction. So we have more barn or more garden, and that's a decision that you have to make. And I see areas like this that are big mass areas that are hard to keep interesting. And so what I would probably do is I'd probably crop the painting here or here and show a little bit of the shed. And then I would move the shed up a little bit higher. And I would probably move it over here or here, or else I'd move it over here. If we want this to be about, let's just pretend that we want this to be about the garden. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the shed over here. We're going to raise it up a little bit, and we're going to make it like that. And so what's going to happen is this gives us a chance to have a nice line of peace, right? We talked about a line of peace where you can have kind of a lead in, and have a nice grassy knoll there or something like that. And then I look at this and I say, okay, what about busyness? Well, first off, I think what's happening is there's a lot of grayish whites in here, and you've got these columns that are equally spaced, which they would be in reality. But what's going to happen is that's kind of uninteresting. And so, and by the way, I see you using black, and typically black is a tough color to deal with. I would look for a color that might be a little bit less. Maybe you find a darkish brown. Sometimes what you see isn't always what you want to do. So you want to get some variation on this, because if everything is lined up perfectly, it's just going to be crazy. So look for ways to get some variation in this. I would like to see some good solid darks in here. And I'm just going to fill this in and make this less in light at the moment, because see how that makes that shed stand out. And then what I'm going to do is look for an opportunity to put some spots of light on it. So you get some really good, whoops, that's a little bit too dark. Get some really good contrast. You've got some contrast on there. but get some good contrast and make that light feel yellow. And then look for a way that you can get kind of a similar light hitting the building. Maybe there's some light hitting here and, some spots of light hitting parts of this. If that's what you want your attention to. And then you've got to put light on that window. And I always like, if that's white, I really want that to be yellow if that's in light. And that way I'm making this kind of my focal point. And I'm not doing the whole barn in focal point, because you don't want everything to be in there. And then what I would do is I would look for an opportunity to make this less busy. I would probably go into some of this stuff in the background, and I would just make it a little bit softer. I like things to be soft in the background so that they kind of recede, makes it feel like it's in the distance. That sky's got some busyness in it. I'd look for an opportunity to get some spaces in there, just to make it come through a little bit. These flowers in here aren't doing you any good. They're drawing the eye, so I'm just going to mush them out. And all this bright spots over here to the side, it's just drawing a lot of the eye, and I really would like that to be a little bit darker. And so I would probably, first off, I would darken this in the foreground a little bit anyway, maybe a little bit darker than that. And you don't want to draw the eye to all of these areas, because if the eye goes everywhere, you're going to lose people. So look for ways that you can kind of put that stuff in, but not have it draw the eye, because what we're really trying to do is draw the eye over here. This is a pastel painting, it looks like. And so you want, you've got some really strong stuff here. So get some really good, strong contrast in here where the light is hitting, maybe in this grass out here, get some good, strong contrast in here. And then, kind of lead the eye back if you possibly can. Look for a way to do that. And so all of these flowers and things are nice, and I like them, but I would kind of keep them in the focal point. So I'd probably mute this stuff back just a little bit. And if I want to focus on really pretty flowers, then I, put them right here around the focal point. And then everything else, you can still have them there, but maybe gray them back a little bit further as they get further away, because you want to keep all of your attention kind of around that focal point. And so, we're going to have some grass in here, and then this stuff over here is going to become a little bit more muted and not have that stand out quite as much, because what we're trying to do is keep most of the light in that particular area. And remember, I talked about I would create some peace in the background. So maybe I would look for an opportunity to find a spot back here, and maybe just make that spot like I want to, maybe if that's your horizon line, remember, don't put it dead center, but you might want to have something where your eye is going to want to go to, and it could even continue back here. Remember, we're going to cut this off anyway. And then that's too much, but there's the bell, so I'm out of time. But the idea is, if you can look for a way, maybe you make a path, and you make just a little bit of an indication of a path in here, and then the path kind of goes back into here. It's gonna be a little bit more interesting. So maybe I like roads or paths because of my name, but I think the idea here is that you want to kind of take them back, and then maybe you take them back here, although that's probably too far. If this weren't dead center, this would be where I'd put it. Okay, anyway, nice job on that. I think you can make some good improvements to that. What's next? Okay, we have this, looks like Mayan, maybe, or Native American. This is Jeff from Iowa. Congratulations, Jeff. It's a beautiful job. Okay, so portraits and composition are a little bit trickier, but what you want to do is you want to look for an opportunity to ask yourself, okay, I look at this portrait here, got this space here, you got this space here. This is a little smaller, this is a little bigger, and that's good. What I might do is I might move this back here just a little bit more, maybe even here a little bit more. And the idea is to create some space in here. So that's the one thing I would do. The other thing is, I think your values are probably pretty strong. You got a nice, good dark back here. And what I think is happening here, though, is we're lacking a little bit of form. and let's see if we can figure out how to get a little more form. Also, ask yourself, where do you want the eye to go? You know, you've got a bright spot there. Do you really want to draw attention to that ear? And so let's see if we can just play with the color on this and see what we can do. By the way, well, you know, let's go back to composition on this for just a second. I can get it to open again. There we go. So if we look at the composition, you know, she's not dead center. If we look at it, if we were to look at it from the stand, sorry about that, my iPad's freezing up. If we were to look at it from the standpoint of, you know, this kind of a grid, then having the face in this area or in this area is probably a better thing. So maybe it's pretty close to the right area, but I would either move it over here or I'd move it over here. Okay, so let's go to the color version. Okay, so in the color version, I see blue hair, and I don't think it's intentionally dyed blue, but I think the intention is to show the dark hair with the light hitting it. I think what I'm seeing here, Jeff, is first off, this has really got some mood to it, and I think it's lovely. I think it's pretty well executed. I will, let's assume that we're going to get the composition where we've got more space out here. But I think what I would do is the first thing I'd ask myself is, if I squint down on this, what does it need? I think that it probably needs some stronger darks in here, and I would probably look for ways to get a good dark background. Let's change that to a different color. Let's see if we can find something that's interesting. Let's get a good dark background back here, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a little Rembrandting on this. And the idea is that we want to get, we don't want to draw the eye back there. There's no reason to. And so we're going to just make this pretty dark here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make it a little lighter in here, but we're going to, let's just get these darks in here for now. And first off, if you want something to really stand out, look at how much it stands out if you get a really good dark in it. And then what you can do is you can play with that a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to get a little bit of light in here, but it still keeps it dark. And right there, that strengthens things. Now, I would look at this and say, how important is this to me? Now, this looks like this is a person not wearing clothes, and maybe that's what you want, but do we want to call attention to that? Or do we want to maybe make this all a little bit darker and out of focus so that the focus is going in here? That's a choice, but you know, you could play with that and see if just muting this light back in here a little bit helps. And it might, because what we're trying, I'm not suggesting make it quite that soft, but ask yourself, where are my light spots, and do I want there light spots there? So you're definitely seeing light spots, but do I want that much light on the neck? Do I want that light spot there? And where do I really want the attention? What I like to have is what is called a light triangle, but I usually like to have it over here. So what oftentimes you want to have the light source coming from this way instead of on the wide side of the face. But again, that's a preference thing. So what I want to do here is just play with a couple of things. First off, I said that I think there's some issues with form. And so I'd like to get some darker form in a couple of these areas. And remember, the eyes are typically pretty dark. And look for a way to get some, you know, really good strong darks in here. And that will help inform the portrait quite a bit. Now, again, I would probably relight it a little bit and then have things be a little bit lighter, lighter in here. You can kind of soften that up. And then I would probably make this a little bit darker over here. Again, I'm not really a portrait guy. I probably shouldn't even be telling you this, but But I think the idea is you want to create, this feels to me like it could use just a little bit more form. And so it's hard to move light around and change form, but I would look for an opportunity to just create a little more form. I'd darken that back in there. Probably wouldn't put a red in there. I'd probably darken that. And then I would look for, can I darken this hair a little bit more? I don't know if blue is the right color for that or not, having not seen the reference photo, but it doesn't work well for me. And then this looks like it's hair coming down. I would probably darken this and then look for an opportunity to put some spots of warmth on it. I think, maybe that's not the right spot of warmth. Let's see if we can find something that would work. Maybe just something that's just going to give it a little bit of sense of light, but not draw too much attention to it. And then I would probably mute back this area in here so that this is not quite as light. You want to have some light in there, but I don't want to draw the eye. And then let's just look for ways to get some good midtones in here. And I think if we look for, okay, now we've got some good basic midtones in there, and then we look for a couple spots where we can really pump up the light, And anyway, I'm not a pro at this. I paint portraits, but also keep eyes relatively soft. Soft eyes are a little bit better overall. And let's just soften some of this up. Watch your edges. You want to have disappearing edges, like the back of the head disappearing into the background, and you want to have some parts of it kind of disappearing. So anyway, this is just, and we need a good dark under that nose, by the way. And so just I would just kind of work on looking at your light and seeing if you can strengthen the way the light is, and then draw the attention to really the face. And I think that will help. Okay, let's move on. What's next? Okay, we have this beautiful landscape, and I'm going to show you a couple of my paintings in a minute because I've got something similar to this. Okay, in the black and white version, we have, let's look at composition. All right, we don't have anything dead center. That's good. If we look at the composition here, so we have a focal point here. And that's kind of what I'm seeing as the focal point, is this area here. So that's fine. You could potentially move that into here a little bit more. And let's look at the values. Where's the darkest value? Well, the darkest value is the point of contrast where the focal point is. That's pretty good. I would like to see a little stronger darks in here, but let's look at the color version because this is a unique painting. Good job on this, whoever did it. Okay, so one of the things to remember, first off, one thing I would make a recommendation on is your canvas looks to me like it's fighting you. This looks to me like a cotton canvas, and you can see all that cotton weave, and cotton canvases just suck the paint. It just fights you. I can feel the weave of the canvas in here, not making it easy to paint, and it's restricting your paint. So if you use a cotton canvas, which is fine, it's just get some more gesso on it so that the gesso, you don't have that absorption going on. So the question I have here is, where is the focal point? Where is the darkest dark? Well, we know that. And where's the focal point? And what do we really want to draw attention to? Is it the beach? Is it the water? Is it this spot down here? Is it the flowers up here? Where do we want the attention to be? Now, you can put into the comments where you would put it. I like, first off, I like this angle. I think that angle's nice. I like this. This is kind of a great composition point. I like the fact that you took it off the canvas instead of trying to do it like that, but that can work too. Here's a couple of things I'm seeing. I'm seeing you got bright yellows up here, but this is a brighter yellow down here. My eye is going right to that, and maybe that's the intention. But keep in mind, when something goes to the distance, yellow gets reduced in chroma and sometimes gets bluer and greener. And so you want to have your warmest warms up in front typically, and you want to have your yellows more in front. If you want to create the sense of distance, then this needs to get bluer and less dark here, or purpler, and then this needs to be reduced back. Now let me show you a painting that I did. Here's a really good example. So this is a painting I did when I was at Fall Color Week. And this was a 15-20 minute painting because the fog was rolling in. But you notice that as this goes to the distance, this gets bluer, less yellow. So I've got some pretty strong yellows up front. And your brain says, okay, these are yellows back here, but like there, but that's muted back and it's kind of cooled back. And so you're getting the sense of that light back there. And as you notice that things get, the darks get lighter. The dark trees here are dark here, but they're not as dark as these. And everything gets softer edges, soft back here. And what am I trying to do? What's my focal point? Well, I don't remember, but I think I was trying to draw attention to this area. And this is right in the sweet spot. And so sometimes I don't practice what I preach, by the way, but my goal here was to have high contrast, right? A nice sharp edge. I wanted to have a nice bright color. I wanted to have a good dark in here surrounding it. And that gave me a pretty decent focal point. And so, and I was able to, lay in some nice thick paint in there, get some good color in this area. And then everything else kind of becomes secondary. If I could put every tree and everything in all of this, but your brain goes, oh, that's Big Sur. That's all I need to know. And so I would go back to looking at yours and say, oh, let me give you another example. Here's another one I did. And this is probably a half an hour, 45 minutes or something. I really struggled with this because of all this busy stuff. You got busy rocks everywhere. It's really crazy. And then I had this great big rock in front. And so I decided once I was out there that I was really going to make this my focal point. So that's kind of right in the area. This is probably more so. And if I were doing this again, I probably would pump this rock up a little bit more and move it over and then maybe move that one out. But I noticed how I have a lot of chroma. The sun was really hitting this, blasting this. I have a lot of chroma and a lot of color there. You still have color and the sense of color on these back here, but everything gets muted, a little bit less yellow. This is really bright yellow, got a good strong dark up in front. And that's why I made that decision. And so look at that from the standpoint of how can I make things give the sense of receding. Also, look for edges and where you can really improve things. So I look at this and I'd say, okay, with this in mind, I don't know what to look at. So I'm going to just mute back. Let's go to this yellow here. And I'm just going to see if I can mute that back just a little bit, maybe gray it up just a little bit. That's probably okay, because maybe we'll put a spot of light on it, but we don't want to be, and we might even get a little bluer. Just get some purples in here. I like purples in distance, but I would probably just, if I wanted a little light in there, I'd put a little light in there, but I don't want it to be too much. And then if I want all my light is hitting here and here, so I need to make a decision. What do I want it to hit? If I want my light to be on this beach, then look for a way you can strengthen this. And maybe if it's in light, give it some color. So if you strengthen this and maybe you look for the color of the beach, remember I put that yellow in there, and you could put, some turquoise of the same value in here, just right up here by your focal point. And then you can get some sand. I don't know what color sand is. Some sand of the same value in here. And so now you've created some interest, and then you've got some white, where you can put the, that's probably, I'd put it a little bit brighter than that, but you've got some white, some crashing waves and so on. And then I would probably look for a way to take this, this in here, just define that edge back there a little bit, and maybe even create this a little bit more distance. I don't know, I'm struggling with this one, but I'm, I really don't care about that light back there. What I'm trying to do is to bring all the attention into here. So this is overly demonstrated here, but I've got a big solid shape here. And then I can, once I get a solid shape in there, I can go in there with some sense of color and lay in some spots that kind of give you a sense of what's going on. But what I really want to do is make this the focal point. And then what I would do is I would probably look for ways to mute this back over here, and maybe mute a lot of this back. If you want those flowers in there and those bright spots, get this all kind of muted back. Big shapes, thinking big shapes. Now you don't want equal shapes. This size and this size are about the same. So I'd probably bump this one up a little bigger. And then if you want your, you want some spot in here, you can have some spot of color, you can have some spot of flowers and so on. And then you can have your, your trees, your good darks here on your trees, and do that right around this focal point. And I would just not worry about that. And then you can kind of mute this back in here. You don't have to show all of the ocean exactly. So you could kind of mute it back in here. So you're kind of leading the eye into here. I would probably not make it quite that extreme, but we're working fast here. So also look for an opportunity to get some grays in there. If everything is pure chroma, it's going to be less interesting. So now what's happening is we're really bringing, excuse me, a lot of attention to this area. And then, if you want to, then you can finesse some certain things and try to figure out how do I get this to be more interesting. And so that's when you start playing with, some interesting shapes and things in here. But the key point is figure out where you want the eye to go. All right, what do we have next? Oh, what a beautiful image. Okay, so this is from Janet in California. This is just beautiful. I think, this is a very unique thing because compositionally, it's very interesting. Typical composition, probably, you've got something in the middle. I don't think it bothers me in this case. If you look at the tic-tac-toe board, you've got nothing here. I mean, you've got different things. So you might maybe move this over into here. But I think it's lovely. Obviously, Janet's a pro. And let's look at your darks. I think overall, your darks are really good. Your values are good. Let's look at the color one. I mean, this is an A+ painting. This is really beautiful. We have a video coming out, I think next week or 2 weeks from now, with Matt Ryder, who teaches painting roses, and it's spectacular. This is very highly rendered, and this looks to me like a botanical illustrator. It's exact. It's got water droplets on it. It's beautifully executed, and it's just lovely. I don't know that there's much of anything I would change. I think it's, already I think this painter, Janet, is getting an A+. Congratulations. So I don't know. I mean, it depends on what the goal is. I think she's got, I would like to see some of these greens pop a little bit much more. She's got, a really nice contrast and sharp edge in there, this against this. And I think that's good. And the greens pop pretty well. I would like maybe make this a little darker in here, just so that we could, let's see if we can find a dark, maybe make that stand out just a little bit more. Maybe, just restate some of these darks just a little bit more. But I think overall it's just beautiful. I'm not sure there's anything I could do to improve it other than edges. And so Edges, if something's heading off into the distance, or if if every edge is sharp, your eye doesn't know what to do. This edge is sharp, this edge is sharp, all of these edges around here are sharp. And if you're a botanical illustrator, that's probably the right answer. And I like the angle. I like that it's bringing me in. And I think it's more interesting that way. So I would probably look and say, could I soften an edge here and there? So maybe I'd soften the edge of this back here slightly. Maybe soften some of these, maybe not all of them, but some of these petals in the back. So just ask yourself, where do you want the eye to go? And so look for edges that you can soften, and look for edges that you want to keep sharp. And then other than that, you don't want every edge to be perfect. So some of them are further away, and if you just pick a few edges here and there, even a couple of spots where there's a sharp edge, then it's soft, it just will make it a little bit more interesting. But I think, you did a great job on this, Janet. I can't really find anything wrong with it. Okay, what's next? All right, we have a sunset painting. This is Danielle 𝗙𝗿𝗲𝗱𝗆𝗆 from Quebec. All right, Danielle, nice job. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to look at this from all the typical things. We're going to start with the dead center. And, well, we don't have a horizon line dead center. We don't have anything dead center in here. We do have a spot dead center here. I don't think that's not a big deal. Let's look at the equal thirds. How are we doing here? Okay, so Danielle is paying attention because she's got her horizon on this line here, and that's really nice, a nice low horizon. That's really working. She also has a focal point, which is basically right here. That's where her spot of light is. And so that's working really beautifully. I wouldn't change that. I think it's really terrific. Let's look at the color version. Okay. Wow. By the way, living in the Adirondacks, I know the skies get this brilliant, and it's really spectacular. So really, and this is another one that's an A+. I think you're just doing a really great job. And I see one thing that's popping up is this little circle here. I don't know what it is, but it's bugging me. So that's not a big deal. You could just smudge that out, right? That's not happening. You got a hard line right here. I would smudge that out. And so I don't know. We have, I think your brightest yellow is probably pretty good. I might see if I could strengthen that just a little bit more. See how just a little bit more strength in there. And I might make it kind of feel like it's going back in there, put a couple spots of light in under those trees. So just bumping that up a little bit. And I might look for a way to contrast this. So this contrast on this tree here, I might just make that just a little bit darker, and maybe make this tree a little darker. One thing that I learned from John Burton is that where light meets dark, that's an opportunity to fool the eye and make them see, some branches or something. You don't have to put them everywhere, but if you put them in a couple of places, and I don't know, that's probably a little too distracting, so we'll undo that. But the idea is I would probably just darken this just a little bit in here. You're getting kind of that reflected light glow, and I think that's a good thing. But I want to see, a couple nice darks, just get some good contrast. And I would just kind of bump up your contrast in this area a little bit here. I would probably also, because of the orange color, which is a form of red and yellow, I would look for what's the complement of that orange, and it's going to come across somewhere in the bluish purple range. So I might look for a way to just create a little bit of this. Again, this is kind of a preference thing. It's not really, could you get some of this to purple back a little bit, and that might give you a sense of just, it gives you a little sense of distance a little bit more. And now this is very delicate, and you've got the reflection of the light in there. So see, I'm just kind of putting a little of that purple in there. And that purple glow just really kind of helps it, I think. It makes it feel a little bit more distance. It doesn't feel like green, but your brain is telling you it's green, right? So just adding that purple in there, I think that makes a good difference. I like the glow of the light. I think that's nice. And everything else about this, I think this area in over here, this area is a little kind of grayish, and I don't know what I would do with it, but I would probably just carry this up into here a little bit more, so that you're not you've got, just so you're not bringing too much attention to that area. Keep some streaks of light in there, and then soften that up. And just that way you're not drawing the eye over there. And then you've done everything else really just perfectly. You've got really nice soft edges on this shadow or this reflection. Typically a reflection is a little bit darker. So you could potentially darken that just a little bit. And you can go into here and smudge that edge, and I think that's fine. So I think, overall it's good. This part over here, I might look for a way to darken this part over here on the right just a little bit more, because what will happen, see if we can do that. So what will happen is if we darken that just a little bit more, it just might help bring in the focus on the light, right? Because we want this to really stand out. So you could potentially, I'm trying to find something that I would change in a really already beautiful painting. So again, I want the attention to be over to that spot of light. So I'm trying to really enhance the darks on the one side, and I might even darken them up a little bit down in here. And that way, you're taking the focal point and making that your star, right? As far as your sky, I would like to see a little bit of purple or violet in that sky. I think you do that on a sunset time. You got to be really careful with the delicate colors, but if you just get a little bit of some purpley grays in there, I think that will help it just kind of offset all that orange, because the orange is really intense. And that was the first thing I noticed. It was like beautiful, but whoa, that's a lot of orange. And so pay attention to the skies and notice how much purple or purple gray there is in it. And I think, it can make a little bit of a difference in terms of how this reads. So and again, I would soften all this stuff because you have to. I mean, just see how this feels once we soften it, right? So what it does is offsets that color. Now, remember, purple is a complementary of yellow. And so by getting some purple in there, it just feels like it's a little bit more harmonious. Make sense? Okay, Danielle, you're a rock star. You did a really beautiful job on that. And we'll just love to see what you do with this. We'll just play with this a little bit more. But even though you're not going to see it as dark, those darks in there, just even at that edge, that just helps enhance the contrast. Okay, what else do we have? Do we have anything else? Oh yeah, we do. We have this lady. All right, Cyndi from California. Nice job, Cyndi. All right, so we'll play composition games first, and go dead center, dead center. There's nothing there. Check. You did a good job there. We do the third equal thirds. Look at Cyndi. She's nailed it. She's nailed it. She's got something else in here. It's okay to have these other things in here. She's got nothing here, which is great. You nailed it, Cyndi. Good job. So the thing that we're trying to do here is we've got the sense of there's light coming in from the window and jamming her with light. And this then is probably pretty dark over here. But what's happening is my attention, when I first look at this painting, this is grabbing all my attention. And that might be okay, because what we're trying to do is say, hey, she's standing in a window. But the other thing is, I think the darks are a little bit lacking. So what if we were to enhance these darks a little more? So I think first off, we want to enhance the form. This dark is too dark, but we want to enhance the form on her body just a little bit more. What's happening is we all tend to get blendy, and we don't get these good contrasts in there. And I think good contrast makes a big difference. And so we want to have, a really good contrast in here where the light's coming in. And I'm basically going to say we're going to make this back of that wall, really, really in shadow. And remember, what Kevin McPherson and I had a discussion the other day. He was here, and he said, there's shadow, the light in the shadow is still darker than the darkest light. Did I get that right? And so we're going to look for a way to mute a lot of this stuff back in here, and then figure out how to draw attention to her primarily there. You've done that compositionally. So really lovely. I think this is really nice. So what I want to do is just see if we can, let's start by darkening this all up in here. And I'm not worrying about right now the reflected light or her shadow or anything else. What I'm looking for is a way to create more contrast, because more contrast is going to make her stand out quite a bit more. And so we're going to have, get some darks in here. Now, just looking at that alone, that's going to help. Let's take all these darks and we're going to enhance them a little bit more. And the shadow is probably more purpley. But so right here, we'll just take this and make it still a little bit dark in here. I've been in Taos. If you go into the I can't think of the name of the place. Anyway, you go into these buildings and people are in there working, and it's really dark in there. And there's, they're working from daylight. So you can really enhance this. You don't have to slam everything in light, but you can have a little bit of light on this back wall. But what we want to really do is put the focus on her. So we'll darken up a lot of this stuff here. And then we'll just we've also got a big open space here. And so we want to kind of not bring too much attention to that, right? That's so the light's coming in, but let's look for a way to create the sense that that light's coming in because of an open hole, a window or something. So you could actually have a hard edge, or maybe a softer hard edge, right? So you could have like the light coming in that way. You're now all of a sudden the whole painting is already more contrasty. And then I'd kind of go in here and figure out how to get some of these darker or lighter, darker areas in here, just because I don't want my eye to go to too much of this stuff. Now, the thing about her, Cyndi, is that I think you've got pretty good architecture, pretty good drawing. I think what I would watch for is you want to look for her form a little bit more, right? So look for ways that you can get some more form in her in her arms and so on. That arm architecturally is a little long. Probably needs to be more like here. And look for ways to create that sense of form. There's a thing where you could put where the shadow meets the light, you can put a little bit more chroma. And so, and this arm here needs to be drawn differently too. But so pay attention to your drawing, but make sure you get your contrast in here in your shadowy areas, and also on her face, especially her face, because the face is pretty much the star of this painting. So look for a way to get, really good form and contrast in here. She's got the light is hitting her, but she's still going to have some darks around her eyes and her face. So see how that makes a difference, and then get a little darker in here, a little darker in here. And then look for ways that you can take parts of this like this blue, and maybe that's a little too chroma-ish, but make that kind of not quite so prominent. I would take these edges in the back, soften that edge, because that's not important. Soften the edge on the back of her headdress there. Soften this stuff down in here. Now, look for other things too that are messing with the eye. So just because you see it doesn't need to be there. So this thing here is like, okay, what is it? Why is it? Is it helping or hurting? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but to me, it's a big bright thing in the middle of everything. So I would probably look for an opportunity to just mute that back. I'm not sure it's adding anything. Maybe you have it down here, but again, let's bring it out of the light. See if we can get the right family for this. Bring it out of the light a little bit more because it's not helping. What you want to do is look for ways to just really ask, where do I want the focus to be? And so a bright spot like that, it's not doing you any good. So just go ahead, and even though your photo reference may show it, what you want to do is look for ways that you're really trying to enhance, what it is you're trying to draw attention to, which is this area here. So everything else kind of can be muted back. It can be softened up. You could soften up the edges on a couple of these things back in here if you wanted to. And just make it mostly about her and this thing. And then look for ways to really pump up the light where you possibly can. And the light's got to be right for her skin. But maybe, whoa, that's not the right. All right, so maybe look for ways to really pump up the contrast in certain parts of her so you can really read that light, right? And, look for opportunities to pump up the light where you really want attention. And maybe even this thing here, just, you're pumping up the light, you're looking for form. And so look for opportunities to have really good contrast. That's kind of what I'm saying there. Okay. Before we finish, let me just throw something else in here. I would look for an opportunity to put a really strong light color on this. That's not the right color. We'd have to get that right. But look for a way to really strengthen that light in here just a little bit more and make it a little yellower. And it doesn't have to go all the way down, but the idea is you want to make sure you have that sense of light coming in. So just improving that light will help it. And wherever you have light, make sure it's light, not too mid-tony, right? So that's very dramatic, the way that is. And so look for opportunities to look for, how can I get drama? I have a rule at my events, no drama, but on paintings, you want drama. Okay. And by the way, we could just maybe enhance that even a little bit more. Enhance her hair, maybe part of that, and her shoulder there. So now it's just makes it a little more interesting. Okay, are we done? We have composition. All right. So this is really not so much a composition thing, but kind of is. So eye paths. Let's say you have your painting, and all compositions are about eye paths, right? They're about leading the eye somewhere, right? So you want to have the eye path coming in, but if you think about this eye path, it's really, you want to get your angles right. And so I want to just show you something. Kevin McPherson uses this kind of thing in his magic grid. And he said that every grid he makes is different and he follows it, but it gives him things to follow. So let's say you go corner to corner, you draw out your painting, and then you go down the middle in both directions. Now I'm going to change color here just so that you can see the difference. Now what you do is you start adding other angles. So you could do other angles here and here. You could do angles here and here, and angles here and here. So what this does is it gives you a lot of eye paths. So the goal would be, let's just lay in our typical composition. If we were doing our 1/3 composition, do you notice anything that happens? Well, basically, these lines are converging basically where these star shapes are happening, right? They're converging right roughly about where those compositional marks would be. So that's another way to accomplish that. And so, hang on. Excuse me. And so what you want to do is ask yourself, if I'm making marks, can I make those marks go along these paths, right? So can I make my mark, if I were doing a road, can I make it go here? And then can I make it go here? Or can I look for a reason to put, if that floral painting, can I put it along that path? So just look for eye paths that you can take. Now you can take this grid a lot further and add a lot more stuff to it. You could add stuff to where all the crisscrosses are, and you can just keep going and going. But what your goal is to try to keep your things on these lines or your shapes, because that will just make it more interesting. A great video we have is Kevin McPherson's, called The Magic Grid, and it teaches this, and it's Kevin McPherson, and he's much better at it than I am. So anyway, think about iPads. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on this week. This week, next week, I should say. Next week is Realism Live. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to have a guest host. I'm happy about that, but I'm sad about that because I'll miss you guys. But I'm going to be hosting Realism Live, which is my online virtual conference. And there are thousands of people who have attended this. And we had just last week alone, last 2 weeks, we had another 200 people sign up. We had a bunch signed up from before. People are watching from all over the world. We have people in 19, 20 countries signed up. We have instructors in other countries. The goal is to give you an immersion, that 3 solid days of training at Realism Live. Watch this promo real quickly.
Welcome to Realism Live.
Welcome to Realism Live.
Welcome to Realism Live.
This is my lesson for Realism Live.
Welcome to today's lesson.
Welcome to my class.
I hope you enjoy this demo. Let's get started.
You have an opportunity to go to an art conference online, and this is it. For the next 3 days, we're here to make you better and to inspire you. You're going to experience massive growth this week. This is the best possible opportunity to really push yourself to the next level. You can do this.
I absolutely loved it.
More than met any expectations.
I keep finding myself going, this is truly amazing.
I learn something new every time.
It's therapy.
Just when you think it can't get any better, it really does. It just keeps getting better.
This experience has been a game changer, not only for your art, but for one's life.
People who can't travel or afford to travel or go to workshops out there are able to learn from all these different artists right from our own studios and homes.
What you're going to get over the next few days will blow your mind, but it's also going to take you further than you ever thought.
There's landscape painting, there's portraits, there's still life. Like, I'm getting a little bit of everything, and I am very excited about that.
You guys are giving me more tools to put in my toolbox.
I appreciate certain things on a whole new level.
I get all these great artists teaching me all these new things, but I get to sleep in my own bed tonight.
So many fantastic artists, master artists who are sharing all their expertise.
The artists, what they bring is just shocking. It's the whole day just flew through, and it's so fast because it's so much to take in.
You have the best of the best out there. So many of these people you can't even get to. You cannot get to them.
They all have so much to offer and everything's so different. Everybody today has been amazing, all in their own different ways. I learned so much.
Every single artist I have an aha moment from. I learned something from everybody today, and I've been painting for 36 years.
I just loved it. I've never done this before. It's so new to me. It's been class.
And new friends too. There's people here that I have become very good friends with.
To meet other people in this, so total immersion is definitely the way to go.
Really incredible to see people connect with them.
Go to every breakout room, talk to everybody, try every single thing. Even if you think you can't do it, put that aside.
It just has been a real lifesaver through this whole time. I have just incredibly appreciated all you've done.
So the price of this thing goes up on Sunday at midnight, and it goes up considerably. So this is the time to get it. There's still chances for you to get it, but we only have 200. So what's going to happen if you put me on screen again? If you there's 200 seats left at this price, or the price goes up Sunday at midnight, whichever happens first. So if 200 seats sell today, then the price is going to go up sooner. So go ahead and get your seat now. We have 100% money back guarantee. If you decide you do not feel like you got your entire week's money worth on the first day, let us know. We'll refund your money. Now we have Essentials Day. If you just want a sampling of it and you're early stage beginner, or you want a refresher, we have an Essentials Day. It's one day that is on Tuesday, and that you can buy that separately. And then if you decide you want to add the other one later, you can add the other one later. But this has got replays, so if you can't make the dates, you got 60 days. Let's see. Oh, you got 3 different packages of replays. So you got 7 days replays, 60 days replays, or a year replays. And so you have an opportunity to watch it, learn it, study it, practice, and go back up to a year long. So it's really valuable. We have most people come back every year. They keep learning more and more. It's different every year. The instructors are different every year. Sometimes we repeat instructors and add them in one year, but not the next year. So there's a lot of value. We do portraits, we do figures, we do still life, we do landscape. So this is the one conference where we kind of do everything. Now there's a little bit of oil, there's a little bit of watercolor, a little bit of pastel, but it's going to be leaning, quite frankly, honestly, towards oil or acrylic. But there is a little bit of all of that in there. I want to be upfront with you so that you understand that. Anyway, go ahead and get signed up. Do it this weekend before that price goes up, or before those 200 seats at that price are gone. We have a free gift for you, and the free gift is 97 Incredible Art Secrets. It's a video with samples of some of the professionally produced videos we've produced, and it's yours free. You can watch it instantly. Just go to 97artsecrets.com/free. For those who want DVD, a lot of people still do that. You can do that by just paying the shipping, which is cheap. So that's what we got going on. Thank you for tuning in to Feedback Friday. Remember, always get feedback. It's very helpful. I'm Eric Rhodes. Take care and have a really great weekend. And I won't see you next week, but I will see you next week on Realism Live.